One of the weaknesses that we often face inside the hero collector genre, and certainly Watcher of Realms as well, is that heroes tend to be not jacks of all trades. So you usually have somebody who's strictly just a tank, somebody who's strictly just a damage dealer, somebody who's strictly just a healer, and very, very rarely do we see a hero who can kind of do like a combination of those skills. Certainly, even more rarely is a hero or a champion that can do a combination of those skills and do it well. So we're going to be going ahead and taking a look at and testing a particular hero today, which is Jeera, inside Watcher of Realms, of course. She is a very interesting hero who I could not find any guides or information or anything like that on YouTube recently, at least. There was a lot of coverage when she first came out into the game, but we've had a lot of new areas open up, we've had a lot of gear advancements happen, and she has some interesting reviews where she's rated fairly highly pretty much everywhere, but she's not really rated insanely high in like any single place, right? So if we compare that to say for like example Ynnemerit, he has like solid 5s in areas that he's really good at. If we compare that to Valkyra, she has a lot of solid 5s, right? So Jeera, on the other hand, has a bunch of 4.9s, which are still very, very solid reviews, but I'm curious if, in my opinion, she can actually break that 5 threshold. So we're going to be doing some damage testing today, going through her kit, showcasing her in 2025, coming up to 2026 here inside Watcher of Realms, and showing you what's possible with this hero. So first of all, she does have dual faction membership. She has the North Throne membership, who has some pretty good lords. So you have King Hars as well as Elder. Elder recently just got buffed, right? Their whole shielding ability and stuff like that would work very well with her. But then more importantly, you do also have the Supreme Arbiters. So little spoiler alert, we will be pairing her with playtest today for some of this testing. I have not pre-recorded any of this. I have not pre-tested this. I'm going to be reacting in real time with you guys to what we find out about her. Let's go ahead and take a look at her kit. She's also not fully booked. So this is not going to be like a max strength showcase. This is going to be a bit more of a relatable showcase for people who may be free to play, lower, spenders, those sorts of things, because I am actually 95% free to play on my account. The other 5%, as I always say now, is the Lust skin that I bought. It doesn't give me any sort of an advantage though, unfortunately, but here we are. So basic attack deals 100% damage to one enemy. Now, this scales up to 120% damage, kind of a normal multiplier, what we'd see on a ground-based hero. We have a passive Divine Reprisal. For every 3 basic attacks, the 4th basic attack will deal 160% damage, along with defense penetrating damage equal to 100% of the total damage the hero has taken previously. The accumulated damage taken will be reset once it takes effect. The accumulated damage taken will not exceed 150% of the hero's max HP. So basically, every 4th hit, you're going to get like a big smack of 160% damage multiplier instead. And then she's also going to do essentially another set of damage equal to 100% of the total damage she has taken. Obviously, it cannot exceed 150% of her max HP. So the thing to consider there is that, if you build her with more HP, obviously she can do more damage. But then on the other hand, you want her built with a lot of attack so that she can do more damage when she's not doing this skill. So it's kind of a constant balancing act, which is what I was talking about. You can book this up quite a bit more too. So certainly if you throw books into her, you're going to notice a big difference here. Mark of Retribution passive inflicts retribution on enemies. So the caster receives 30% more damage from units inflicted with retribution. So basically, already with Insider Kit, you can see she's setting herself up to actually enable the enemies to do more damage to her, but then she also kind of reflects damage based on how much damage she has taken, which is a pretty cool mechanic. When attacking a target inflicted with retribution, deals additional damage equal to 3% of the hero's max HP. All damage received from enemies not inflicted with retribution is reduced by 30%. Switching targets removes the retribution inflicted on the previous target. Now finally, well, semi-finally, we have the arena damage increase, but then finally we have the Triumphant Resolve, which is her manual ultimate. When activated, restores 75% HP immediately. During the skill effect, increases her max HP by 60%, damage dealt by 150%, and attack interval by 30%, all lasting for 20 seconds. Now here's the crazy part. This effect will become permanent upon the second activation. This could be potentially pretty insane. I was trying to find information on her online, actually, in preparation for this video, and I was looking through some like stuff that people had shared on Reddit, and they actually showcased where she was in Semra, so Guild Boss 2, and she had out-damaged an A5 playtest, and they had pretty similar builds. So it's pretty crazy. I'm definitely expecting decent things from her. Obviously, I pulled her and I built her, but I don't really have, you know, much experience using her. I don't think I've actually used her in battle yet, which is pretty crazy. So let's go ahead and take a look at the awakenings. A1, dealing damage to enemies will consume 1 stack of Radiant Erosion on them to deal additional damage equal to 4% of the hero's max HP and inflict stun. I'm not going to lie, this A1 would make her pretty crazy for, obviously, Semra. So if you're running her with either a Praetus or with an Ingrid team, this is going to do big things, right? So this is pretty fantastic. A2, base attack plus 300. A3, once HP drops below 25%, gains a shield equal to 100% of max HP for 15 seconds. Can only be triggered 1 time per deployment. So you have kind of like a pseudo unyielding. Not incredibly useful in my opinion, because obviously if it's a big slam coming in from the boss that just kills her, it's game over, man, right? Like, that shield isn't really going to help her. Penetration plus 8% on the A4, and an A5, when an enemy is inflicted with retribution for more than 5 seconds, increases the damage dealt to this enemy by 15%. So essentially, if you're going into, you know, Guild Boss 1 or Guild Boss 2 in those longer fights, she's going to do more damage. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at the artifact. I have her inside Key of the Forsaken. You could run her inside Shattered Hilt, and in fact, I think I am actually going to go ahead and switch it over to Shattered Hilt. Like, either one will work fine. So obviously, Key of the Forsaken is going to help to increase her max HP, and then also increase her damage by 12%, which is pretty cool when it's maxed out. Shattered Hilt is just more of a damage increase, which is also pretty cool. If you don't have either of these, just put her into any sort of a tanky sort of thing. So Wailing Skull would be very good, right? Obviously summoning the extra enemies out there. Something like a Slayer's Malice, if you can keep her nice and healed up, would be pretty good as well. Anything that's going to give her a lot of HP or attack or single target or just damage amplification in general is going to be the way you want to go. Now we're going to look at her gear, and I just want to call something out here real quick first. So by far and away, the best way to run her is inside Infernal Roar. Pretty much all of her skills are going to be counting as basic attacks, so Infernal Roar is just the way to go. I put her inside Soulbound Arcana because I have really good Soulbound Arcana gear on my Sun Wukong, so I wanted to switch it over to her. I also didn't really focus too much on HP, as you can see, so the stats are 46,000, almost 47,000 HP, almost 23k on the attack. We have 365 on the attack speed, which is going to bring her down to a nice 1.5 second interval. The math does not add up, by the way. 2.6 minus 1 is not 1.5, but, you know, it is what it is, I guess. 106 and then 381 on the crit rate and crit damage, respectively, and then 17.5% rage regen. We're not really too worried about rage regen with her, because obviously her ultimate becomes permanent after the second activation. That being said, one other thing to consider as well is at the time of recording this video, at least, which is September 6th, 2025, Soulbound Arcana is, I believe, still kind of broken or not really working the way that the skill tip intends, because basically anybody's ultimate is going to count for this increased damage amplification, so we don't have to depend on her stacking her ultimate, which is quite nice. Now, that being said, in terms of the gear pieces, this is what we're rocking. We got a crit damage, I got attack bonus and attack bonus, and then we got a very nice piece here on the left hand side, especially for her with that extra HP in there, right? So very good gear. Like, this is a very end game account, albeit a free to play account, so anything you see here is attainable by any single person watching this 100%, right? It's just going to be RNG, and you're going to have to farm a lot. I've spent hundreds of thousands of energy, especially farming Gear Raid 3. It's actually obscene. It's probably like well over 500,000 energy at this point. It's pretty crazy. Yeah, not going to lie. Obviously, you have her booked out. She's going to do even crazier things as well. We've yapped now for 9 minutes and 30 seconds roughly. So all that aside, we're going to go ahead and we're going to go into the guild boss here and see what we can make happen. So we're definitely going to enable her as best as possible, so we are going to bring in Praetus, if I could find him here. So we're going to go to our Arbiters, we're going to bring in Praetus, we're going to bring in Jeera. And that's really all we need to bring in. Obviously, if you don't have Praetus or Ingrid or anything like that, you could bring in Elysia as well. She can also stack up... so if you have Jeera A1, she can also stack up the Radiant Erosion, which will help out a lot. We are going to bring in a decent number of healers, so we're going to bring Diao Chan for obvious reasons. We're going to bring Elowen, and we're also going to bring Hollow. And then on top of that, we're also going to bring in Laurel. And the reason for this is because we just want to be able to like basically cycle as much as physically possible to get her ultimates activated twice as quickly as we can so that she can get that permanent uptime on her ultimate. Now, we are going to also bring in, we're also going to bring in, if I can actually find him here, what is going on with the sorting? We're going to sort by rarity. I don't know why that reset there. That was super weird. So we're going to bring in Torador, right? And we're also going to bring in, if I can find him apparently, there he is. So we're going to bring Torador, and then we're also going to bring in our Arrogance, as well as maybe Twyla. So the reason for this is Twyla just kind of has some crap gear thrown on her, right? So she makes it into my Guild Boss 2-1 team. So she has gear, but nothing too crazy. And then Arrogance is A5 with some pretty cracked out gear on him. So he's got some very, very decent stats. So it's going to be kind of a good comparison to see how she lines up against some of the other best damage dealers inside the game. Obviously, she's not running, you know, Wailing Skull. And then just to clarify, like, Arrogance and Twyla are decent damage dealers, but when you compare them to like a Sun Wukong or a Kagiri, it's not even going to be close, right? So they are good damage dealers. There are certainly other options out there that you could use. So this is going to be Nightmare 4 on the Dragon's Abyss. I'm going to have my my head moved here a little bit so that I'm not blocking the ultimate bar, as well as not really blocking, you know, seeing the deployments and stuff like that. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to get Hollow placed in here first. Then we're also going to place Diao Chan right here. Switch her over. Place Elowen here. Place Laura. We're going to get down Jeera. We're going to get down Arrogance. And then we're going to slam Twyla right in the front. And we are actually going to go ahead and place Praetus as well. And then we will make use of the Praetus button to go ahead and essentially help empower Jeera's damage. So we can already see she's doing decent damage. Like, she's close to on par with our Arrogance. He's now popping his ultimate though, so his damage is going to be like going crazy. We do have Jeera activated here now though, so she has her first ultimate up. As you can see, without the rage regen cycling, she definitely has like, she has no initial cost for her ultimate. So a lot of times you'll see, like, we're not popping Twyla either, so we should probably do that. Let's go ahead and do that now. She'll help get down the shield anyways. So yeah, as I was saying, a lot of times heroes will have, like, if they have a 900 cost ultimate, they'll have an initial cost of like 400 or something like that, just to help them get their ultimate going quicker after they're placed. But she doesn't have that. She just starts off at nothing. So you can see she's a little bit, she's like neck and neck with Twyla after they both had their ultimates activated. We'll go ahead and pop Praetus here. It's kind of funny. He's in a position where he can't even target the dragon, which is hilarious to me. But so we're going to go ahead and pop Jeera, and now her ultimate effect is permanent. So if you remember, she gets the max HP increased by 60%, damage dealt increased by 150, and then the attack interval by 30. So it's permanent now. She's doing more damage. She has higher max HP, so she's taking more damage, doing more damage to the enemy. So we'll see how this goes. And then obviously she'll have Retribution inflicted on the dragon as well, so she's going to be doing bigger damage to him. As you can see, she's plenty tanky enough that she's not really, you know, struggling to stay alive or anything like that, certainly after she got her max HP increase as well. But if you were using her in like a tank role, I would imagine that she is probably going to struggle a little bit to stay alive. Now obviously, we're also not using like the proper, you know, cycling here or anything like that to try and like make this run super efficient. So like my Twyla and my Arrogance and all that could be going a lot better. And then, you know, we could also be cycling Laurel as well, essentially to help things along. But that being said, as you can see, she's not actually doing like crazy levels of damage, all things considered. We may not even get through this shield here. But she's at like 26 million right now, and we're at 230 roughly. Our arrogance is at 44, and obviously he's an A5 unit, so he's got like significantly more damage potential, so we'd kind of expect to see that. Yeah, and then we could also do a run with like the Torador in there just to see kind of what's going on as well, but you know, all things considered, definitely not crazy damage. Twyla's like less than 10 million behind her, and then keep in mind the Twyla has like absolutely trash gear. She doesn't even have like a set on the right hand side, right, and not anywhere close to these stats or anything like that. So you know, Jeera did just take a 89,000 damage there, so she's going to get a pretty nice retribution inflicted. Yeah, almost 2 million there on her damage spike, it looked like, which is pretty cool. I was really hoping for big things from that permanent ultimate, but I mean, you know, it is what it is, I guess. We'll kind of just let this run through the rest of the way. We also haven't really been hitting the playtest hammer that efficiently, so she could certainly be doing more damage there if we allowed her to, but we'll go ahead and pop Twyla as well. We also have arrogance coming in. I don't think we're going to clear this shield, though. Nope, not even close. So we get wiped. Unfortunately, everybody's wiped. Jeera is still alive, though, which is pretty cool, and you can see she's actually doing pretty decent damage out there. She's at like 53 million now. We're going to go ahead. We're just going to like regroup, reset here. Maybe change a couple of things. So we'll go back to the fight here. We'll place Torador this time so that he gets like the defense reduction up there and just helps her do more damage. In terms of like ground damage units, I think we'll bring in like a Lord Phineas. So my Lord Phineas is certainly built decently. He has like 18,000 attack. He's got like 106 and then 364, right? So he's a pretty decent Lord Phineas, right? He's got kind of like my tier 3 gear. And when I say that, I don't mean like the actual tiers of the gear in the game. I mean like tier 1 goes on my best units, tier 2, you know, next best, whatever. So he's maybe like tier 2, tier 3 gear. So we'll take out probably Twyla. Bring in, actually, we'll take out Arrogance because we already seen what Arrogance can do. He's A5, you know, we expect him to do good things. We're not really going to worry about the Laurel placements because obviously we can cycle the Rage fast enough to get her up and running. Anyways, I just want to kind of bring in like another DPS option, but I'm really struggling for who to showcase here. I think we'll bring in like a Volca. Volca is built inside like DPS as well, so she's got some decent stats there. Volca is of course A5, right? We all get that for free, so this will be kind of a good comparison where you can see like you know, Jeera compared to like a Volca, compared to Twyla, compared to a Lord Phineas. So let's go ahead and get these placements done. So we're going to place her first right here. We're going to place Yao Chan right here. We're going to go ahead and place and recall Laurel once. We're going to place there, get Elowen out here for some heals. Place Lord Phineas here. Let's get our Torador down. I think Hollow can reach him, which is perfect. And then we'll not place Praetus. I can't really heal anybody over there, though, so I can't really place Volca because she'll just get clapped. So we'll place the Praetus. It's whatever. So yeah, we have some decent options here now just to kind of show you who's going to do more damage. We have the defense reduction coming in from the Torador, which is going to help to increase their damage inflicted a bunch. We're going to pop Jeera's ultimate. We're going to go ahead and pop everybody's ultimate here, essentially, just so you can kind of get a good idea of what we're dealing with. Obviously, as you can see, Lord Phineas, when his ultimate pops, he's doing significant amounts of damage. But you know what? Jeera is, like, pretty much neck and neck for the most part with him, which is kind of crazy. So, Phineas 9 million, Jeera at 7.7, right? Like, it's very, very close between those two, which is pretty cool. And Lord Phineas is known as one of kind of like the better boss-killing units, certainly in content like this, right? So, when he pops his ultimate like that, doing such significant damage, Arrogance being A5 is definitely a bit of like an unfair comparison for her because it's such like a significant difference to have him that awakened. So we're going to go ahead and pop Hollow here, get some additional rage regen. We're going to go ahead and pop basically everybody else. Jeera's ultimate will now be permanent, which will be nice, and we'll make sure to make good use of the Praetus button there as well. So Praetus is actually doing some pretty decent damage himself. We haven't really been popping his ultimate, though, but again, Jeera and Lord Phineas are kind of like right neck and neck. Obviously, Lord Phineas doesn't have like the best of the best gear or anything like that. If we switch them out, we'd probably see you know, significantly better damage coming in from him, but she is still putting in work. If you were running a team like this, right, and if you're just trying to get through Guild Boss 1, obviously it's probably not going to happen. We're at 3 minutes with 8,000 blood, so we're probably not going to hit that 50k, but there's obviously, you know, a lot of damage being left on the table here. So we're not popping Torador ults, we don't have like Volca out here or anything like that. We're not rage cycling Laurel, which you certainly could be. We have like, you know, 2 healers out here, which you don't really need. We're just looking for that rage regen to regen as much as humanly possible in like a very short time. And actually, at this point, Jeera has now overtaken everybody. She's in position number 1 in terms of damage done, which is pretty cool. And it's not by a significant margin, certainly. So Lord Phineas is right up there with her. Twyla's a little bit behind. Playtest is certainly right up there with her as well. I imagine if we started popping the Playtest button, we'd probably see a pretty significant difference in terms of like the damage done by him. So we'll start doing that. But still, like a very, very solid unit, especially for somebody who can also be placed as a tank, essentially. She could certainly be like a very, you know, a very good addition to your team if you're looking for somebody who can soak up some damage. Certainly if you have her A1, you could get that and use her to inflict some stuns on Guild Boss 2, right? So you see when Playtest puts up his Radiant Erosion, if you had her A1, you could be turning those into stuns instead inside Guild Boss 2, which would be pretty cool. We will actually test her inside Guild Boss 2 here next, I think, so we'll go ahead and quit. Very, very decent damage numbers, though. Again, you know, being that close to Playtest when she's A0, pretty impressive. My Playtest is A1 too, so he has a bit of an advantage there, certainly. We're going to go here. They added a playtest button, which is absolutely fantastic, so I'm loving that. We have like the same team that we brought over from Guild Boss 1, apparently, so this isn't really going to work the best. Yeah, we'll still do the test, though, so I do need... Torador is going to come in here. Hollow is going to be replaced with Pharisee. We don't bring in Diao-chan or Laurel to this fight, so I'm just trying to remember what my Guild Boss 1 team is. Let's take a look here. Guild Boss 2, sorry, rather. So we do have Kagiri and Sun Wukong who are in here usually, as well as Numera. So let's go ahead and bring in Kagiri at least. We'll take out Lord Phineas. We'll take out Volca. We'll bring in Numera. And then... what else do we need? So we have healers, we have a cleanser. I do also run Tallulah as kind of like a backup cleanser on this particular difficulty. We're not really looking to progress through this too crazy though, so we'll just kind of run like a ragtag team. And speaking of ragtag teams, we'll bring Helga as an additional stun option so that we can actually get through like the first phase of the boss. So let's go ahead and do this, see how it works. Go ahead and skip here. We'll get the camera up, and then what we'll do is we'll place our Tallulah, we'll place our Pharisee, place our Elowen, place our Torador. Then we're going to get Jeera like right here. I forgot to bring Constance, so we're going to bring Constance as well because I do have her placed in here as like a inspiration unit, so we can replace Twyla with Constance. Now usually I also have Arrogance in here to do some big damage, but we're obviously not going to do that in this particular case. So Twyla, you are out. Let's go ahead and find our Constance, like so. Pretty nice as well because Jeera works as an additional like power-up for the Playtest button, essentially. So he's going to do more damage with the Playtest button with her in the team, which is awesome. So we're going to go ahead and do this. Now, if you're trying to be really efficient with this, you'd probably want to be placing, like, you know, certain champions in a certain order because, like, for example, Elowen's inside Invigoration, but, I mean, it kind of is what it is at the end of the day. So we'll do something like this. Obviously, you can bring, like, an additional ground unit if you want to as well. We're going to pop, like, the Kagiri buttons kind of on time so that you can see what that looks like. So, boom. Having Pharisee as well as as well as Constance in here is nice because we can essentially get like double inspiration, which is pretty cool. As you can see though, like Jeera is so slow with her ultimate initially. Like we still are only at like 95%, so there we go. We're finally gonna pop her ultimate. We do have almost enough stuns here. We'd certainly want a bit more, obviously, but it kind of is what it is. They're going to get hit around a little bit, but we've certainly got enough for now. We're going to pop the Kagiri button. As you can see, Kagiri, Praetus, and even Numera are just kind of doing some work. Jeera's down a little bit lower than that, unfortunately. We'll see how it goes, though, obviously, once she gets her permanent ultimate. That'll help out quite a bit, I'd imagine. Get the Pharisee inspiration there. We should have popped Helga as well, as a little bit slow on that. We do take down the first phase of the boss, though, so nothing too crazy here. We'll wait until Jeera has her ultimate ready. We'll hold it for just a second here until Praetus is ready to go, and then we'll pop our Constance. Constance is such a good unit, man, because like look how big of an area she applies inspiration to. It's absolutely insane. We'll go ahead and pop pretty much everybody here now, see what we're capable of doing. We'll get the Kagiri button out there with the boss doing his big swipe. And now, for overall damage, you can see that Jeera is kind of coming in fourth. Kagiri is A3, Praetus is A1, so you can see they're doing significantly more damage in this setting. But she's kind of like right neck and neck with Numera, which is surprising because my Numera isn't really built for a lot of DPS. So, you know, it kind of is what it is, I guess. But we'll go ahead, pop the Praetus there. Obviously, at this point, my Jeera has like permanent ultimate up, which should be helping her DPS as well a little bit. But we'll see. We'll be getting the Kagiri button in here right away too. Didn't necessarily need to pop Helga there, but it is what it is. I do really like the mechanic where she has like the permanent ult uptime, right? Like it's super unique. You know, yeah, it's unique, right? It's unique. It doesn't really mean a whole lot if she's not doing damage to suit it, though. Like, you know, she's getting blown out of the water by so many of these other heroes. I have no doubt that if I brought in like my Arrogance, certainly my Sun Wukong, those sorts of things, it'd be a different story, right? Like she wouldn't even be close to the top. Another thing to consider, though, as well, you know, she's not awakened whatsoever and not even fully booked, so there is definitely a lot of damage being left on the table, like potentially 20% on her basic attack alone, which, you know, is quite a difference, certainly. So, you know, don't be too hard on her, I suppose. But just a few things to go over as well. So I always do like kind of the gear breakdowns, how you want to build her and all those sorts of good things. Obviously on the right hand side, like I mentioned, by far and away her best in slot gear is going to be Infernal Roar, because basically everything she does counts as a basic attack, so that's going to be kind of the way that you want to power her up. On the left hand side, any DPS gear is going to work, so Warlord, you know, Calamity, anything like that, if you have it, any sort of like either a crit damage boosting, attack boosting, anything like that, just throw it on her. It's going to do perfectly fine. We're going to go ahead and activate everybody here except the Praetus button, because we need to save that for when we need to get the stuns up. So let's go ahead and go with the Kagiri button. Then we're also going to trigger Torador so that he can start getting his stuns out. After a couple moments, we're going to trigger Helga, because she does take a few seconds to kind of wind up. I think we were a little bit early there on her, but it kind of is what it is. Pop the Praetus button. We're definitely going to get enough stuns up this time, it looks like. So there we go. Jeera, as you can see, we'll do like one more full rotation here. Just kind of manualing it so you guys can see like where she's at for damage after the second rotation, and then kind of make your decision from there. And then, you know, certainly like my Kagiri has a pretty good build. We'll actually pop him there. But I mean, at the end of the day, the build that's present on Jeera should be more than enough to be able to do some damage. Like you guys seen the stats on her. They're certainly very, very, very acceptable stats, to say the least, right? So I won't lie, I'm a little bit let down by her damage so far, but it is what it is, I suppose. So we're gonna pop Numera, Helga, all of them, get some big damage coming in here. We take down the boss pretty easily. You know, she certainly synergizes in the team, enabling Praetus like that. It would be nice if she brought like just a little bit more, though. So Like, for example, if she brought a way to inflict radiant erosion herself, because kind of the thing, obviously, with the Arbiters is that they do the radiant erosion. If she brought like a cost reduction in the arena instead of increased damage, I think we would probably start to see her as like somewhat of a maybe off meta or even slightly meta tank, because she is pretty expensive and there's no sense having a damage amplification aura or buff on somebody who doesn't really do a ton of damage, right? Like, that just doesn't make sense. So yeah, like if she had some sort of a cost reduction where she could be like a 12 cost unit, you could easily get her placed down as like a tank, right, inside the single target arena. And I think it would work pretty effectively, because we already see a lot of fighters who can kind of work as a tank being placed inside the arena. So for single target specifically, you have like your Kagiris, you have Valeria, right? Like, there's so many options for decent tank slash DPS units out there. So, you know, that's a potential way to rework her. I don't know if it's to the point where she needs a buff. I do feel like perhaps the Reddit post I was looking at where his A5 Praetus was getting out damaged by like a A0 or an A1 Jeera is maybe a bit misleading, right? But maybe I'm missing something completely as well. I know, like, you know, there's a lot to her kit, so especially if you built her out with like higher max HP as opposed to, you know, the attack, like the route I went with, that could be a potential consideration to make. I would love to hear from you guys down below if you have used her, where you've used her, and what sort of success you've had. We'll go ahead and kind of pop everybody's ultimates here on the poison phase, because we just want as much damage as possible, obviously, because we're not even going into the next phase. So we just want everybody to kind of blast through here, get as much damage as they can. Keep in mind as well, like, so this is with like best case setup for Jeera, right? Like, this is her best case. Like, so obviously she's not booked, but in terms of like the actual damage capabilities, she obviously has like the best in slot Lord for her, right? Like, inside Praetus, she has a lot of rage regen coming in from Eloin. She has inspiration up almost constantly from Pharisee, as well as Constance kind of cycling. She has the Praetus button being popped. You know, it doesn't really get much better than this. There's a decreased defense down, and she does do physical damage, so, you know, that's helping her significantly as well. She has very decent attack, very decent crit damages, all those sorts of things. So there's not really, like, there's not too much team setup that's not being done. The only thing that could potentially be better would be, like, if you had, you know, maybe a Diao Chan in here to apply the inspiration effect, so it's up 100% of the time, as opposed to relying on the constants. But these are the final damage numbers, so I'll move my head here a little bit, right, and kind of get an idea. So first place obviously is Kagiri, 108 million, 94 on the Praetus, and then it's a pretty big jump down to Jeera at 44 million. Right, and then you have like 31 million after that. And I'll kind of show you like the Numera build so you can get an idea or like what she's built like too, because like I said, she's certainly not set up to be like an incredibly strong hero or anything like that. And she is A2 as well, so it is kind of impressive that Jeera is able to outdamage her. But as you can see, like, she doesn't have the crit damage, she doesn't have the attack, she doesn't have any sort of similar stats to what the Jeera has, right? So the other thing we could do potentially to test Jeera would be to run her inside Infernal Roar real quick, just before we call this quits and before I give her official ratings. So let's go ahead and swap back my Sun Wukong gear onto her. So right here, let's go to Jeera herself. So we'll go here, fighters, take a look at her. Quick change, we will get her into maybe like, I'm just trying to think of who has good Infernal Roar on my account. Silas has very good Infernal Roar, but he doesn't have much HP. We have decent HP, attack, everything on Ingrid, so I think we'll just run her inside the Ingrid gear. So now she has that Infernal Roar bonus. She has a variant piece on here, which increases the damage to enemies inflicted by slow, which isn't really going to help her a lot, right? Because we're not slowing down the clan boss. We'll go ahead and do a playtest here again. It's so weird that it takes my teams from like one and moves it to the other. I'm not a huge fan of that, but we'll bring in We'll bring in our A5 Arrogance. I think that's pretty fair in this situation. We'll bring in our Diao-chan as well, just so that we can have the inspiration up constantly. And then we'll go ahead and run this team and see if we can get any sort of a different result than the first time we're fighting. You know, maybe Infernal Roar is just a secret to it all. Maybe that's where her damage is hiding. Let's see. I don't know why we have Tallulah in here. It's such a pain that it takes like the same teams for Guild Boss 1 and Guild Boss 2. Obviously, they're such significantly different fights, like, you know. But it is what it is, I suppose. We'll place down Torador. And we'll place down... I should have placed him over here. He's probably going to die right away, but it is what it is. We obviously got Kagiri down as well, so we're going to see what kind of damage they get to do. Arrogance, Kagiri, and Jeera are all pretty much in like the same area right now, but I'm sure that'll start to change. We do have the inspiration coming in from the Diao-chan, obviously, so that helps to do a bunch of damage on that front. And yeah, she's taken like forever to actually get her ultimate going here, which is hurting her a lot because like Arrogance is already cycling. You know, Kagiri's already got his ult a couple of times now. So here we go. She has the playtest button active. She is pumping out a little bit of damage, right? But you can see it's not really anything compared to Kagiri, Arrogance, and playtest themselves. Like, they're just doing significantly more damage, which, I mean, you would definitely argue that that's kind of to be expected, right? Like, she's not necessarily on the same tier as those crazy units. I think we kind of get the idea, though. I don't think there's any further testing needed for Jeera. So let's go ahead and let's go back to the hero screen and kind of walk through and give her some ratings here so that you can get kind of like an accurate viewpoint of where she's at, if you should be using her, all those sorts of good things. So, Faction Trial, I'm definitely going to give her a 5. She'll help you out significantly inside the Northerners Faction Trial. Having a tank that can do damage, she's going to be very solid there as well. Single target DPS, I will still give her a 5, right? She can really help you to get those Arbiter teams going. I want her to be, like, you know, pretty highly rated as well. I'm not going to lie, I'm a little bit biased. I really like the hero, even though she doesn't really perform. Artifact Material Raid, I think she's probably going to be more like a 3 to a 4. She could definitely do some tankage, but you're going to require a lot of healing to get her going and, you know, healed. Titanic Ruins, this one might be a little bit controversial. I'm going to give her a 3. I'm going to give her a 3. Well, maybe a 4, right? So, like, the thing is if you have her A1 and she can turn those Radiant Erosions into stuns, that's huge. That's a lot, right? Like, that's a big part of what could help make her so much better for that area. But, I mean, realistically, at the end of the day, you know, how many people are going to have her A1, right? Guild Wars, we missed one, actually. Drake's Chasm, I'm going to give her a 4. I think she's very decent there. I do think there are better options, so obviously. Guild Wars, she's going to be a 5. And the reason for that is there's kind of like a hidden factor to consider when you're looking at heroes' kits, and that's their BP. So Jeera has insanely good BP scalability, which will help you in things like Tide and certainly also in Guild Wars. So she could get some of the best gear on your account and just be an affiliate hero for any sort of like demon soldiers you might be trying to use, which would be pretty crazy. So that's a potential option there. Tide, she's going to get a 5 for that same reason. Void Rift, probably a 3. She's not really doing anything too special. If you already have playtest to really enable her, or certainly if you have some of the legendary Northerners Lords, you probably have better options than her, right? So that's something to consider. Like, she's kind of that jack of all trades, master of none, right? Where she's doing okay damage. She's tanking a little bit, but she's not really special in either way, which means that she's usually just better replaced by another unit. Like, there's not really a situation where you're like, oh, you know what I need? I need a mediocre damage dealer who can be a mediocre tank, right? Like, you're either thinking to yourself, I need insane damage here, or I need a really good fucking tank here, right? So, just something to consider. Gear Raid 2. Or Gear Dungeon 2, I should say. I'm probably going to give her a 4 because she can tank. She has good HP. You know, she has the ability to reflect that damage. You can use her in an Arbiter team. It's okay. Gear Raid 3, Gear Raid 2, I should say. What does she do that's special? Like, she sits there, she tanks, she reflects a little bit. It's not bad, but she doesn't really have any survivability or unyielding to keep herself alive. Like, you have to have her A3 to get the shield placed on her, which if you have an A3 Jeera, you're probably going to have other options. So she's going to get a 3 there. Gear Dungeon 1, probably like a 4. She could help you tank a little bit. Immortal Codex, I can't really think of any particular Immortal Codex she would excel at, so she's going to get a 3. XP Raid, unfortunately, a 3. Gear Raid 1, she's going to get a 2. I just don't really see her being used there. Gold Raid, a 3. Arena AoE DPS, a 1. Not her area. Gear Raid 3, a 1. And Arena Anti-Air DPS, also a 1, right? So really the only air, like the time she'd be useful in those situations is if you were using her to set up, like, you know, your playtest teams or something like that. So that is going to conclude our look at Jeera here for today. If you do like the Watcher of Realms content, make sure to go ahead and subscribe to the channel, as well as hit the like button down below. You guys have been absolutely fantastic with the support on the channel, the comments that are always coming through, there's new subscribers and everything like that. The channel is growing. It's extremely healthy, and it means the world to me. So thank you guys so much for that. I do have a Discord link down below as well. So if you want to brag, if you want to ask questions, show builds, tell me I'm wrong about Jeera, all those sorts of good things, make sure to go ahead and hop into the Discord as well. And once again, thank you for watching. I'll see you guys next time.